My fiancé promised me forever, while his brother pawned our dream home just days before the wedding to cover his gambling debts. We signed the papers at sunrise. Our names on the deed felt like a promise, our future, pinned down on paper. I'm Emily, 29, and today began the next chapter, touring our move-in-ready suburban house with my fiancé, Luke. Fresh paint gleamed on the walls, and the heirloom china from my grandmother's cabinet sat displayed on a built-in hutch. Light poured through bay windows, lighting our wedding mood boards pinned to the far wall, blush roses, flowing tulle, golden calligraphy. Luke ran his hand along the banister. "Can you believe this is ours?" he whispered. His eyes shone. I smiled back, imagining family dinners and first Christmas mornings. He nudged me toward the kitchen island, where granite counters waited for rehearsal dinner platters. "And get this," he said, voice low, conspiratorial. "My brother Sean helped cover the down payment." My heart warmed, until his next words. He tapped his front pocket. "He says I'll pay him back once the honeymoon fund builds up." I nodded, trusting him. But a flicker of doubt sparked. Sean's generosity was generous for a reason. What price was attached? We climbed the stairs to the master suite. Hardwood floors whispered beneath our feet. I stepped toward a loose floorboard near the closet, a tiny gap where the wood didn't quite meet. I pressed down, and it gave a hair's breadth. That shouldn't shift, I thought, heart fluttering. A loose board under our dream home? I tucked the worry away as we reached the bathroom. Marble counters and a soaking tub, spa day dreams fulfilled. Luke turned on the faucet. Water cascaded, steam coiling like fairy dust. I watched the droplets gather on the chrome faucet, my reflection rippling in the glass mosaic tiles. He wrapped an arm around me. "One day," he murmured, "we'll soak here after our first big fight." He squeezed me and laughed. "Right?" I laughed too, but inside my chest, tension hummed. First big fight? Even that sounded unsettling. We wandered through the sunroom next. French doors led to a manicured yard, space for backyard BBQs and afternoon tea. I could almost taste the lemonade. My phone buzzed with a reminder, wedding cake tasting 2 p.m. I slipped it back into my purse, excited. Luke stepped off the patio onto the stone path and offered me his hand. "Come on, my lady." He bowed like a prince. I placed my hand in his and followed. Light shimmered through the oak trees, and I closed my eyes. This is it. Our happily ever after. But the loose floorboards still whispered beneath my shoe. Later, we stood inside the wedding planning studio, white walls lined with sample fabrics and cake tiers. I pinched a swatch of blush chiffon between my fingers, pretended to float down an aisle in that color. Luke sampled a mini cupcake, declared it fabulous. The planner beamed. Sean arrived late, sliding into the studio doorway in a designer leather jacket, cheeks flushed. He glanced around. "Traffic," he lied, voice casual. Then he reached into his pocket and handed us a thick envelope. "Just in case you need extra cash for the big day." Luke's grin split his face. He slipped the envelope into his suit jacket. "Thanks, Sean. You're a lifesaver." Sean winked. "Well, if I lose big at the poker table tomorrow, I may need to pawn something." He laughed when Luke chuckled, but my heart thumped, filed away under worry soon. I shook off the chill. Sean's joking. Yet when he kissed my cheek and sauntered away, I felt the floor dip under my feet. That night, I lay in bed picturing cake tiers and family vows. Luke's arm curled around me, a protective moonlighting fortress. Yet every time I blinked, I saw that loose floorboard dancing in my mind's eye. Something in this dream isn't solid, I thought, eyes closing. And I can't ignore the crack at our feet. The Saturday sun slanted in through the kitchen window as I spread out cake samples on the marble island. Fluffy tiers, lemon, red velvet, vanilla bean, stood in neat rows atop doilies. My stomach fluttered like a hummingbird's wings. Today was our cake tasting rehearsal, the first taste of the wedding itself. Luke brushed past me, grabbing a forkful of strawberry frosting and offering it to me. "You have to try this." He swirled the frosting across my lips with a grin. I licked the sweet tang and laughed, wiping my chin. We were alone in our dream home's sunlit kitchen, cabinets pristine, counters gleaming. The smell of vanilla and sugar mingled with the scent of fresh paint that still smelled new. I felt light, wrapped in the warm promise of tomorrow. At that moment, the front door swung open. Sean, Luke's older brother, stepped in, oversized duffel slung over one shoulder. He waved, cheeks ruddy. "Hey, sorry I'm late," he called, dropping the bag with a heavy thud. Luke's face lit up. "You made it!" He wiped his hands on a tea towel and enveloped Sean in a hug that rattled the cabinets. I plastered on a smile. "Glad you're here." Sean grinned at me, then surveyed the kitchen like a general reviewing his troops. "You two look great." He raised a brow at the cake samplers. "When's the tasting?" "Just now," Luke said, leading him to the island. I sliced off a square of red velvet and handed it to Sean. He bit into it, eyes closing in exaggerated ecstasy. This is perfect." He swallowed and handed me the plate. "Thanks for doing this." He leaned against the counter, duffel at his feet. "I brought something." Sean opened his coat and revealed a thick envelope, one like Luke had slipped into his pocket earlier. "For emergencies," he said. Luke's grin turned sheepish. "You didn't have to." Sean cut in. "You two have enough to worry about. Weddings always run over budget. Call it an early honeymoon fund." He pressed the envelope into Luke's hand. I forced a breath and tucked the moment away, generous, but why twice? I slid a bite of vanilla cake toward myself, empty sweetness on my tongue. Sean laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. He glanced at his watch. "I might head out soon. I've got some things to take care of." Luke nodded, thumb rubbing the envelope's edge. "Thanks again." Sean's grin turned tight. He dropped his voice. "Just covering my bets. I might need to pawn something if I lose big." He winked at Luke, laughter rumbling low. Luke laughed along, pats Sean's shoulder. But I felt my heart stutter. "Pawn? Lose big?" The joking tone did nothing to thaw the chill in my chest. I filed the line under "worry soon." Sean straightened, lingering. He picked up a sample of buttercream frosting. "You two are perfect together," he said. "I want only the best for you both, and for my only brother." His lips twitched. "Consider this both a gift and an investment." Luke exchanged a quick sideways glance with me. I sensed his gratitude, and his unease. Sean tapped the frosting. "Anyway, I'll let you finish planning. Keep me posted if you need more cash. Or someone to blame when costs blow up." His grin flickered, a brief shadow in his eyes. Then he turned and strode out, duffel slung back over his shoulder. The door clicked shut, leaving me cold in the warm kitchen. I and Luke exchanged a look. He ran a hand through his hair. "I know he means well," he said, voice unsteady. "He'll get his money back." I swallowed. He joked about pawning things. His smile wavered. It was a joke. I set the cake plate down, frosting smearing in my palm. It sounded serious. Luke moved closer, brushing frosting from my fingers. "He's just Sean, always joking. He'll make good on it." I nodded, but the loose floorboard beneath my feet whispered the same warning: not everything is as stable as it seems. That night, I lay awake, the envelope Sean brought sitting on the dresser like a weight. Its contents, wedding funds, were supposed to be the safety net. Instead, they felt like an anchor tied to a darker secret. Tomorrow, I thought, I'll check the deed. I'll make sure our home isn't collateral for his next joke. And before sleep claimed me, I promised, no whimsy about pawning our future would go unexamined. The night was silent except for the hum of our new thermostat. I crept down the hall in socks, mind spinning. I need to know. In the home office, Luke's domain, documents lay stacked on the desk beneath a single lamp. Wedding contracts, cake invoices, seating charts, and the envelope labeled house deed, now suspiciously empty. My hands shook as I slid open the drawer. The deed was gone. In its place, a folded pawnshop receipt poked out. I tugged it free. The date, 3 days ago. Just 3 days before the wedding. My breath caught. I unfolded the slip, fanning it out on the desk. Pawn shop, golden key exchange. Item, real estate deed. Date in MM/DD. Loan amount, $25,000. My pulse thundered in my ears. Our house, our dream, used as collateral. I pressed a palm to the desk, nails biting into wood. Everything in me screamed betrayal. A photo clipped to the receipt showed a grizzled clerk handing over a small stack of bills. Luke's trademark cufflinks glinted in the image, proof the deed was real. My stomach twisted. I sank onto the rolling chair, brain racing back to Sean's investment envelope. He'd slipped Luke cash, then quietly pawned our home's deed. No chance of immediate redemption. I wiped a shaky hand across my mouth. But why? For a gambling debt? To fund some reckless thrill? Luke's office door clicked. He stood in the doorway, eyes wide. My heart stuttered. He saw the receipt on the desk. Emily, what are you doing? His voice trembled. I held up the pawn slip. Explain this. He swallowed, shoulders sagging. I discovered it last night. He ran a hand through his hair. Sean came by, panicked. He needed cash for a big game. He said he'd return it within a week. I thought he'd pay him back myself. My breath hitched. You thought? I pressed the receipt closer to his chest. You never even told me. He stepped forward, guilt burning in his eyes. I didn't want to worry you. I blinked back tears. You pawned our house, the roof over our heads, without telling me? He shook his head, pained. I was stupid. I panicked alongside him. I swear, I thought we'd fix it before you noticed. I slammed the drawer shut, rattling paper clips. Fix it? How? You barely covered his loan for the cake tasting. Now we're stolen out of our own home. He ran to the desk, rifling through folders. We'll get it back. I'll take a personal loan, anything. His voice cracked on anything. I cut him off. It's not just money, Luke. My voice was small but fierce. It's trust. You let your brother gamble with our future. He sank into the chair, head in his hands. I stood over him, vision blurring. All our wedding mood boards, now tainted by this betrayal. The loose floorboard, the first sign of instability, was nothing compared to this. A sudden creak down the hall made me turn. Emma, bleary-eyed in pajamas, stood at the doorway clutching her stuffed rabbit. Mommy? She asked. Concern etched her face. My heart wrenched. I dropped to one knee. Hey, sweet pea, I whispered, brushing her hair. Go back to bed. Mommy just checking something. She nodded, eyes wide, and patted away. I watched her retreat, worry creasing my brow. Protecting her innocence now felt more urgent than ever. Back in the office, I faced Luke. We need a plan. My voice steadied. First, call that pawn shop and demand a hold. Then, I inhaled, fighting the ache in my chest. Then we tell our families. And our planner. No more secrets. He looked up, hope flickering. We'll fix this. I rose, pacing between the desk and the door. Each step echoed my resolve. The loose floorboard of our first visit was nothing. This chasm was wider, deeper, and we had to bridge it with truth. I paused at the creed of our dream, our little home, our future vows. I whispered to the empty room. We rebuild on honesty, or we don't rebuild at all. Luke crawled from the chair and joined me. He reached for my hand. Thank you for trusting me enough to confront me. I met his gaze, tears brimming. I need you to earn that trust back. He nodded, solemn. Together, we stepped toward the door, one step toward redemption, one vow to protect our dream from any more shadows. We stepped into the golden key exchange, its fluorescent lights harsh against my eyes. The air smelled of metal and stale wood polish. Behind the glass counter, shelves groaned under faded pocket watches and tarnished silverware. The clerk, a burly man with a grizzled beard, peered at us over steel-rimmed glasses. Luke's face had gone pale, lighter than the pawn receipt had. He swallowed. We're here for the deed." His voice cracked. The clerk nodded and reached beneath the counter. He slid out a manila folder stamped "Redeemed." Inside lay our signed deed, its crisp paper creased at the corners. Next to it, a small wooden box held the mortgage key, labeled in black marker. My heart pounded so hard I feared it would burst through my ribs. I stepped forward. "This is ours," I said, voice trembling. We want it back." The clerk placed the folder on the glass top. "Yes, ma'am. Mr. Clark here pawned it 3 days ago. Loan amount was $25,000, due back yesterday. I believe he missed the deadline." He tapped the edge of the folder. "There's a fee, interest accrued." Luke's shoulders slumped. "How much?" The clerk clicked a calculator. $27,000, including fees. I drew in a shaky breath. $27,000, our home. Moments earlier, it had felt invincible. Now it sat on this counter, up for sale if we couldn't pay. Luke's hand trembled as he reached into his jacket. He pulled out the second envelope Sean had given him, thicker than the first. He peeled it open. $24,000 in cash, crisp bills with sharp corners. 3,000 short. My pulse thundered. He turned to me, eyes pleading. Sean said he'd cover the rest, but I never got it." His words tumbled out, each one a confession. He lost big, then ghosted me. I panicked, and did this. He gestured to the deed. "I'm so sorry." My throat tightened. "You gambled with our home." The words felt holy in their weight. Luke nodded, tears in his eyes. I didn't think he'd actually. He swallowed hard. "I'll get the rest. Let me try." The clerk folded his hands. "I can't hold without full payment. You have 24 hours before it goes to auction." Luke fumbled with his phone, dialing Sean's number. No answer. He tried again, straight to voicemail. Each beep echoed in my mind, empty. I turned away, fighting tears. The pawnshop's hum felt suffocating. I crossed my arms. "We can't lose our home." Luke slipped the envelope into his jacket. "I'll figure this out. I promise." I glanced at the deed and key, so close yet beyond reach. "You should have told me," I said, voice low. "I deserved a choice." He clenched his fists. "I know. I was ashamed. I thought I could cover it myself." A small bell jingled as a customer left. The clerk cleared his throat. "I'll hold these until close of business tomorrow. After that, they go on the floor." I nodded. "Thank you." We stepped outside into the cool afternoon air. The sky was overcast, gray clouds hanging heavy. The weight of our home pressed against me. I reached for Luke's hand. He offered a shaky smile. "We'll get through this," he whispered. I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his determination. "We have to. No more secrets, no more surprises." As we walked to the car, I felt the loose floorboard beneath my foot again, imagining it splintering open. But this time, I knew we would repair the foundation, brick by honest brick, before it collapsed entirely. Tomorrow, I would stand beside Luke and pay that clerk the full $27,000. Then our home would truly belong to us once more, built on truth, not hidden debts. And as we drove away, I vowed, never again would I let someone gamble with my future. The front porch was dark when we arrived, our headlights slicing through the twilight. I pushed open the door and stepped inside, the emptiness swallowing me whole. Wedding invitations lay scattered on the floor like discarded promises, blush envelopes torn open, our SVPs ripped in half. Luke fumbled with his keys, but the lock gave way with a hollow click. He slumped against the doorframe. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I didn't answer. My feet carried me past the dining table, where our cake tasting had been a week ago, to the living room. The furniture felt foreign, draped in dust cloths. The mantel stood bare except for a lone wedding photo of us, unframed, face down on the hearth. I sank onto the sofa, pulling the pawnshop deed from my purse. The paper trembled in my hand, brittle and final. $27,000 to reclaim our home, our dream, now contaminated by Sean's gambit and Luke's silence. Luke set the envelope of cash on the coffee table. "I got the rest," he said, voice raw. $27,000, each bill a savings from our honeymoon fund, emergency savings, even a personal loan he'd taken against his 401k. My breath hitched as he placed it beside the deed. He watched me. "Can we do it now?" I stared at the money, mind reeling. This wasn't just about funds, it was about faith broken. "You never gave me a choice," I said, voice trembling. "I would have been furious, but at least I would have known." He knelt before the coffee table, gathering the bills into the envelope. "I know. And I'm so sorry." I closed my eyes, the weight of our marriage pressing down. "This was our castle," I murmured, "and you mortgaged it to cover your brother's sins." He finished stuffing the envelope and held it out. "Let me fix this." I reached out, snatching it, then stood abruptly. "I need air." He rose, hesitation etched on his face. I stormed outside into the cool night, the crisp air sharpening my thoughts. Through the window, I saw him through the blinds, standing in the living room, half in shadow, half in light, waiting for me to return. On the porch, I pressed a hand to the railing, vision blurring. I thought of our wedding mood boards, our laughter at the cake tasting, the way sunlight danced through the bay windows. All of it marred by a receipt from a pawnshop. He joined me, voice gentle. "I paid them. Tomorrow it's ours again." I turned, anger flaring. "You repaid them without telling me? You expect me to just move on?" He swallowed. "I thought I was protecting you, from worry. From," his voice cracked, "from thinking I couldn't handle it." My chest tightened. "You didn't trust me enough to share the burden." He exhaled, shame in his posture. "You're right." Inside, the clock ticked quietly. I pressed my palm to the cool wood of the porch floor, the same spot where I'd first noticed that loose floorboard. I felt the small give beneath my hand, a reminder that foundations rot when doubts go unaddressed. "I need time," I said, voice soft but firm, "to figure out if our foundation can support us." He nodded, pain pooling in his eyes. "I'll respect that." I watched him stand in the doorway, framed by warm lamplight and waiting dust cloths. I realized he was as broken as our home had been. "Tomorrow," I whispered, "we go to the pawnshop together." He stepped forward, hope and fear intertwined. "Thank you." I closed the door gently between us, leaving him in the glow of our emptied living room. On the porch, I slid down onto the top step, clutching the pawn receipt. Tears slid down my cheeks, tears of grief for the betrayal and tears of resolve that this fight was mine to reclaim. In the dark, I raised my gaze to the sky, cloudless, vast, offering a promise of renewal. I pressed my hand to my heart, where the rhythm of my pulse had once heralded trust, then doubt. Tonight it rang clear. I will build again, on truth, not shadows. And in that quiet reckoning, I felt the first glimmer of a new beginning. The sun rose over our street, gilding the houses in pale gold. I stood by the front door, tying my shoelaces, the pawnshop deed and envelope resting heavy in my tote. Today we reclaimed what was ours, on our terms. Luke met me on the porch, suit jacket over his arm, hair still damp from a hurried shower. His face held a fragile hope. I offered a curt nod. "Let's go." At Golden Key Exchange, the clerk recognized us immediately. He slid our deed and key across the glass counter without a word. I placed the envelope of $27,000 on the surface. Bills fanned out like surrender flags. "Thank you," I said, voice steady. The clerk counted the cash, then slid the deed back into my hands. "All set," he replied, voice neutral. Outside, I tucked the deed into my purse. Luke exhaled, relief coursing through his posture. I met his gaze. "We're home," I said softly. He reached for my hand but paused. I let him take it. Together, we stepped onto our porch, each board now secure, each nail tight. Inside, sunlight splashed across the hardwood, chasing away yesterday's shadows. That afternoon, I met with our attorney in a small, book-lined office. She reviewed the lawsuit papers against Sean for fraud and conversion of property. With the deed recovery and his missed deadlines, we have a strong civil claim, she said. He'll be ordered to pay restitution, and likely legal fees. I nodded, feeling justice settle in my chest. I signed the documents. Clerk of court. Plaintiff. Date. Each signature was a stone in the foundation of honesty. Later, back home, I spread wedding invitations on the kitchen island. This time, no tears fell as I stamped envelopes. I folded each RSVP card neatly, sealing them with care. The invitations felt different, no longer fragile paper boats, but firm declarations of our future. That evening, twilight draped the backyard in soft indigo. Under a pergola we'd never used, I arranged simple bouquets of white daisies and eucalyptus. No elaborate arch, just genuine greenery. Luke stood beside me, his suit collar crisp and his eyes bright with gratitude. We faced the small gathering, close friends and family who'd stood by us. I held Luke's hand as I spoke. Today I stand before you ready to say I do, not to a perfect life, but to a life built on truth. I promise to speak openly, to trust boldly, and to repair what is broken. My voice caught as I turned to Luke. He squeezed my hand. And I promise to honor every word, and never gamble with our future again. We exchanged vows beneath the soft glow of string lights. Our rings, bright, unblemished gold, slid onto each other's fingers. In that moment, I felt the weight of the pawnshop papers lift. Our home was safe, our bond secure. Afterward, as guests drifted off, I lingered with Luke by our reclaimed doorway. The day's warmth lingered on the boards beneath our feet. I slipped my phone from my pocket, one final text to Sean. Stay away from our home. All debts are settled. I pressed send, then deleted the message, closing that chapter for good. Luke wrapped me in his arms. I tilted my head up to him, breath warm, heart lighter than it had been in weeks. Welcome home, I whispered. He smiled against my hair. Forever home, he replied. Inside, our living room glowed with lamps and laughter, the reclaimed walls bearing witness to our promise. I closed my eyes, imprinting the moment, a foundation of honesty, built plank by plank, vow by vow. And as night settled over our renewed haven, I whispered into the quiet. This is our forever, solid, true, and ours alone.